Hey everybody, a happy Wednesday evening to you here. Brent Axe live on the Syracuse Orange basketball Facebook page, or maybe you're watching later on YouTube. Either way, we're here following a Syracuse win, the fourth win in a row for the Syracuse basketball Orange, following back-to-back dome losses to Old Dominion and Buffalo. Syracuse has rattled off four wins in a row, three at home, one on the road in their prior game against Notre Dame. Tonight, a 61-53 win over the Clemson Tigers, and we are here live chatting with you. Or again, if you're watching later on YouTube, we appreciate that. You guys should know that. We do put this chat up on YouTube, so I would subscribe to the Syracuse Orange Sports page on YouTube if I was you, or check it out on my recaps on syracuse.com. We always put the YouTube video right there in the recap for you. Not a pretty game by any stretch. We're here thanks to Krause Health, by the way. Thanks to our friends at Krause for all our live chats here. And we'll be here throughout ACC season. Every ACC game, we'll be right here after each of them. So make sure you make an appointment to come on by and talk some hoops with us here live after every Syracuse basketball ACC game here on the Syracuse Orange basketball page via Facebook on syracuse.com. Not a pretty game. Not a pretty game, but a game where Syracuse really locked down defensively, holding a Clemson team that was averaging 75 points per game, a team that could really get in the paint, a team that was fourth in the ACC in field goal percentage, not a good three-point shooting team. Marquise Reed was really held in check until the last few minutes of the game. But, he's one guy that can hit some shots for Clemson. He didn't really get going until late. Certainly, Syracuse flirted with letting Clemson come back into this game. It kind of felt like throughout the game, and Syracuse held the lead for 37 minutes. So statistically, Syracuse certainly did what they had to do in that circumstance, but it felt like, Syracuse could have really put their foot on Clemson's throat and made this a bigger victory. But beggars can't be choosers in this sense. It's an ACC win. It's an ACC win at home, starting with this game tonight against Clemson. That's for the next 5 games at the Carrier Dome, with Duke being an exception there. That's coming up Monday night, and what a tall mountain that's going to be to climb for Syracuse to be competitive in that game. But after this win tonight, they get Georgia Tech at the Dome on Saturday, and then they'll head for Duke on Monday. So let's go over a few things in this game. Very balanced effort offensively for Syracuse. Elijah Hughes led the way with 14 points. Both Tyus Battle and Frank Howard having a nice offensive game. Certainly good to see if you're looking for Frank to bounce back and be a part of things for Syracuse. He had 12 points as well. Marek Dolja had a terrific all-around game for Syracuse. He had 10 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 blocks, and 2 steals. Since Marek has been inserted as the starting center for the Orange, they're 4-0. And it's not a coincidence that they've kind of made a decision about what to do at that position, and they've won all of those games. And of note, Pascal Chukwu did not play in this game, and Jim Boeheim emphatically saying at the press conference afterwards when asked about it that he is not injured. This was just a coach's decision, and a wise one at that, because Marek played well. I'll tell you, Barama Sidibe in 16 minutes, a quick glance at his box score, 4 points, 4 rebounds, 3 blocks on the night. I thought he was very effective on the defensive end, got in a little bit of foul trouble and went back and forth on the bench because you wanted Marek out there if you're a Jim Boeheim, but very effective game from Barama as well. As Jim noted in the press conference, you don't want to see O'Shea Brissett and Tyus Battle go 0 for 10 from three-point range. You hope those are kind of the rare nights there. I think O'Shea took about 3 or 4 too many three-pointers in this game. Tyus just couldn't get it going from three-point range. He was 0 for 6 there. Kind of disappointed to see Syracuse where they were at the free throw line tonight, because as you guys know, hashtag free throws matter. 15 of 23, 65%. I'll tell you the key stat in this game, and it was kind of a sloppy game in a lot of senses. There was a combined, let's see here, just doing some quick math here. So Clemson had 17 turnovers. Syracuse had 15 in this game. So very sloppy game. 32 combined turnovers between those two. Here's the key stat for the Orange in getting this win. Points off turnovers. Now, it ended up that Syracuse won that category 20-12, but for a good stretch of this game, even into the last few minutes of the game, Syracuse was up 20-5 in that category, always had a huge gap. So all the turnovers that Clemson gave Syracuse, the defensive plays that the Orange made, really cashed in to points. And we mentioned the balanced effort on offense. This wasn't the big three taking over Tyus or one player really taking over this game tonight. It was kind of spread all around. So, again, not a pretty game, but you're going to get these kind of rough and tumble games against Clemson. The last 3 games that Syracuse played against Clemson, very tight affairs. Of course, Tyus Battle hit the shot in a recent game. Last year it was a 55-52 game. So another one of those kind of, drag him in the mud kind of games, but the drama certainly was not there. There's a couple moments at the end. Reed missed a bunny. There was a point where he hit back-to-back shots, and Clemson was kind of chipping away at the Syracuse lead, and Reed comes down and missed the easiest shot he had all night. He missed a layup, missed a bunny. So off of that, Syracuse comes up the other way. O'Shea Brissett scores, puts Syracuse up, I believe it was, let me check my notes, I think it was 58-51 at that point. If it was 58-50 when Brissett scored at that point, and then it just became again about fouls and whistles and getting to the free throw line and, a lot of stop and go play at that point. That was a big swing. That's a 5-point swing right there. Had Reed cut it to 4, would have been a lot more nervous times down the stretch for this game for sure. So that's what I have to say. Let's see what you guys have to say about this one. And a couple of questions right off the bat there, including Marky Mark. Love it. Where's the Funky Bunch when you need him? Is Chukwu out of the lineup now? I think he's out of the lineup certainly in this. I don't want to say the word temporarily because I don't really know the answer to that question, but Jim Boeheim's not really one to mess with his lineups, particularly when things are working. I don't think we're going to continue to see Pascal play 0 minutes going forward, but he's out of the rotation. He's certainly out of the shuffle here because Marek has started. They've gone 4-0 in that stretch. They move the ball a lot better with Marek in there. Obviously, Pascal has trouble catching the basketball. You do sacrifice a bit there on defense, but you really didn't tonight. And Elijah Thomas is a terrific inside player. He had some plays in the paint, don't get me wrong, but this is a great team in the paint that did not shoot well tonight. Clemson was held, just to glance at that number here, let's say 19 of 53. That's 35% points in the paint for Clemson, a team that really can get inside and get into the paint. They did win that category 22-18 with, a few plays here and there, but, Syracuse really held back the damage on that one. So the way that Barama is playing, and Barama's knees are not 100%. This is a guy who's out there playing hurt, and with Marek and what he can do all around the court, as we saw tonight. Marek Dolezaj's box score tonight is the perfect reason why you can't play Pascal Chukwu too much at this time. So he seems to be the odd man out. Is he completely out of the rotation? I don't think so, because inevitably Barama's not going to have a good game, or he's going to get into real serious foul trouble, and you're going to need Pascal to give you some minutes. But it doesn't seem like it's going to be much from him going forward at this point. Brian saying, nice call from Boeheim to go to the full court press. Seemed to energize the team when the game was getting a little closer. Boeheim had a good feel for when to put on the press. He really did. And Jim will be the first person to tell you, you take a risk when you go to the press, because if it doesn't work, you can't go back to it, right? It's not one of those things you can go in and out of the press. It was the perfect time to go to the press. It worked like a charm tonight because Syracuse needed a wake-up call. They had a really sloppy series of offensive possessions before that. They're just kind of jacking up threes, and they weren't really moving the ball well. The dome was dead quiet, and, Clemson just kind of throughout the game was hanging in there just enough. You never got a comfortable sense that Syracuse had their foot on anybody's throat. So Boeheim went to the press, and it immediately caused a turnover. Dolezaj comes back on the other end, hits a three-pointer. He had 2 3-pointers in this game as well. He had 2, I think, all season long coming into this game. It really worked. It was a big swing and gave Syracuse just enough of a lead to kind of pad it and keep building on it, kind of keep chipping away there. So, Brian, I agree with you. It was a great call by Boeheim to go to the press. It's not always. He is somebody that, is only going to break out that press when absolutely necessary, and it was really needed at that point. It could not have timed out any better. I think a lot of people were starting to say at that point, hey, go to the press. He did, and it absolutely positively worked at this point. Diane saying, love watching the development of Marek Dolezaj. Look, he is the epitome of, when Jim Boeheim says we've got to get better and players need to get better and players need to develop, he is the epitome of that right now. They put enough trust in him to put him in at the center, to start at that position, and he's handled it. He's handled it well, and everybody was saying, well, this guy's only 180 pounds, soaking wet. How's he going to handle ACC play? And I think that's still a bit of a question because you're really getting to the rigors and depth. And look at the stretch Syracuse is in now. You're playing a game on a Wednesday night. You're playing a game on a Saturday. And then you go to Duke on Monday. So you got 3 games in 6 days there. And I want to see how Marek Dolezaj handles that. But he is developing. You can see the improvement as a player. You can see the decision-making. He's making great defensive plays. He's making great passes. There was one play tonight where he kind of got the ball, and Buddy Boeheim was right next to him, and I think the instinct would be to kind of just give him the ball. But he waited. He was patient. He made a better pass inside to O'Shea Brissett, and O'Shea dunked the ball. So that's the key word there. It's development. It's improvement, and he's been great. He's been terrific so far. There's going to be times when he's going to be overwhelmed physically, and Syracuse will have to find a way around that. But I think they found what they need to do at center. We've been wondering, that's the big hole in the lineup. What are they going to do at the 5? I think they found their answer. I think it's a mix of Barama and Marek and Pascal when absolutely needed at this point. Let's see. Alex saying Brissett, Battle, and Howard to combine 1 for 13 from deep, and they still pulled out the game. It's big to win when you have an off shooting night. It's particularly big to do that, Alex, when you were so good from the three-point line in the game prior. It's been weird that Syracuse's 2 best three-point shooting performances this season have come on the road, Ohio State, and then the Notre Dame game in the prior one to this. And, tonight Syracuse just didn't have it going from three-point range. They were 6 of 26 overall. It's 23%, whereas they hit 12 three-pointers against Notre Dame. But you brought up the best point. It's one of those things they can get away with. I think there's a few things that Syracuse can get away with. I think they can get away and win games like this more often than not when they don't shoot the 3 well, when they don't out-rebound a team. I think they did rebounding-wise for most of this game, but Clemson ended up winning that battle 36-35. But I think you can lose, tight rebounding battles like that with the zone and some shots that get away from you. You can't have a big gap there, but a gap like that Syracuse can certainly get away with. The one thing they cannot get away with, though, is lagging on defense. And what we saw tonight is what happens when you don't do that. When there was a few possessions, certainly, where Syracuse left open some open threes, and Thomas got some easy shots inside. But this was a great overall defensive performance, and you got balance on offense, and you got enough from the inside game. You got enough from everybody all around hitting just enough shots to do what they need to do on the offensive end. But I think this is a team that more often than not is going to shoot like they did tonight from three-point range. You're just kind of counting on 1 or 2 guys to get hot. Certainly Elijah Hughes was not as on from distance tonight as he was in the Notre Dame game. And the difference was in the Notre Dame game, he was getting a lot of open shots. In this game, he had to move a lot more. He had to dribble a little bit. And I think you're going to see teams do this. They're going to move out, and they're going to force him to take tougher shots. That sticks out on the film. When coaches get ready for these games, they typically look at about 4 or 5 games prior on film, and Elijah sticks out like a sore thumb because he was getting all these open shots. He's going to have to work for his shots a little bit more in ACC play. So I think you're going to see that three-point percentage more often than not be something like it was tonight versus maybe what it was against Notre Dame. But I think that's something that Syracuse can get away with if they play the defense that they did tonight. Joe saying, why in the world is Buddy getting minutes? I think you want Buddy to feel like he can get in there and play and get in the flow of things. He actually made some good plays on defense tonight. And as I was just saying, that's what makes up for Syracuse struggling on the three-point end. If he can get in there and get a couple open shots and feel like he can contribute. But, what did he get tonight minutes-wise? We'll just look it up while we're talking about it here. A lot of people ask that question. I think it's a legit question. It's fair to bring up. He played 5 minutes tonight. Jalen Carey didn't have a really good game tonight because Frank Howard was kind of handling his business, hitting good shots. Jalen Carey had a real bad freshman mistake at one point in this game, grabbed a great rebound, let a fast break up the court, and then he just tried to take on a couple defenders in the paint himself and ended up fouling the guy. That's a point where, when you draw that much defense, you got to dish off. You got to find the open man at that point. I like Jalen Carey. I think he's going to get plenty of minutes, and he's really going to help this team. But they're freshmen, and they're going to make freshman mistakes, and that was a big one right there. So I know that the minutes that Buddy gets annoys some people. Yeah, did you hear my dog in the background there? Hi, Summit. That's my dog, Summit, over there. I should bring her in. You guys should I really shouldn't bring her in here because she'll just knock everything down. It'll be quite a scene there. But, she's a lot of fun. But Buddy, if he's only playing 4 or 5 minutes a game, I'm not going to have too much beef with that. And he never plays in the second half. Notice it's rarely in the second half. It's always, somewhere in that first half. It's usually from 12 minutes to 8 minutes to go. He gets some time, and if he's not getting in the flow and not doing anything, he gets out of there. So I'm not going to complain about that too much at this point, particularly in a game when Syracuse held the lead for 37 minutes. If he's getting minutes in a game where he's not helping and Syracuse is down or Syracuse is not competitive, that's one thing. But I think, Jim, a lot of people complain you don't go too deep on the bench, right? Well, I think he wants to feel like he can play 9 guys. And, I don't think that's such a bad thing at this point. But if it's only 5 minutes, I'm not going to have too much of a beef with that. Matt saying our best lineup tonight, Brissett on the bench with Sidibe and Marek at the 4 and 5. That did work. I don't think that's something you want to do too often. O'Shea didn't have it going from the 3-point line tonight, and he can do that. He can kind of go cold and make some bad decisions shot-wise, but that's a guy I want on the floor more often than not. It did work at times tonight, though. It really flowed, and, minutes-wise, Brissett, he ended up with 34 minutes. This is a guy that typically is playing 38, 39 minutes. Sometimes, we were just saying with Buddy, what difference does 5 minutes make? 5 less minutes for Brissett tonight actually worked when that lineup was out there. I think that's a good observation, but not something I think we're going to typically see because you go back to the Notre Dame game, O'Shea was getting that open shot, and he was hitting it. He was hitting that open shot. He just didn't hit it tonight, but did some other things out there tonight. O'Shea, while we're talking about him, ended up on the night with 9 points, so he missed out on just being the 5th Syracuse player in double figures tonight. He had 9 points, 6 rebounds. O'Shea is always going to rebound. He's always going to be up there in that category for Syracuse. Elijah Hughes actually led Syracuse in rebounding tonight. He had 10 rebounds last game, 7 in this one, so he's getting on the boards, doing a nice job there. We mentioned O'Shea struggled from the 3-point line. He was 0 for 4, 4 of 10 overall. The free throw thing frustrates me. I think you guys know I say that a lot on social media. Free throws matter, and it's something that I think, you get that many free points. You just got to cash it in. It's always been a Syracuse thing. I don't know what it is throughout the years. They just haven't been able to cash in those free throws. 15 of 23, You got to be 20 of 23. You got to get that up a few. You can't miss those front ends. You can't miss those easy ones. Frank Howard really struggled at the free throw line tonight. You can't have your guard struggling at the free throw line as much as he is. But as we say, we're picking nits at this point talking about that. But, in a different situation, in a closer game against a better offensive team, that gap gets real tight. So you want to be sharp at the free throw line. If, TV Teddy was in the building tonight, Ted Valentine, and thankfully the free throw disparity was balanced. Syracuse didn't have to wait 34 minutes to get to the free throw line like they had to in the Notre Dame game, which was absolutely absurd. So thank you, TV Teddy, for not being too ridiculous tonight. I mean, there's always 4 or 5 calls you kind of scratch your head at, but 15 to 23 from the free throw line, that's no good, especially when you're going to have a lot of tight games in the ACC. Neil's saying, let's worry about Georgia Tech, worry about Duke after that game. Duke's going to beat us up Monday night, better chance to get them in the Dome. I could not agree with you more, Neil. I don't think it's going to be pretty. And that's nothing against Syracuse. That's just Duke. Duke's just blowing people out. You see what Zion Williamson did last night? 30 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists, something crazy like that. First Duke freshman to do that ever. And think of all the great freshmen and the one-and-done players they've had. I mean, Duke's annihilating people. And it's going to take a perfect game for Syracuse to be competitive, let alone have a chance to win in Cameron. But I agree with you. By the time February 23rd comes around, 35,000 people in the Carrier Dome. There's been some great games between these two teams, no matter the talent level at Duke in the Dome. So I think Syracuse is a better shot than Monday night. I don't think that one's going to be pretty. Syracuse just isn't ready to play a team at that level at this point. Let's see in a month and change how they've developed and how good they are at that point. Javen disagrees, saying that Syracuse has a great shot at Duke because these guys played in Cameron last year, and as we saw, the zone slows them down. So we'll see if experience matters. In that case, I don't think it's going to, honestly. A lot of you talking about Zion and how good of a player he is. He's amazing. He's a unicorn is what he is. I love watching that kid play. He's absolutely incredible. So what do you say we end it there? Appreciate you guys coming by as always. We're going to be back right here Saturday. It's a 2 p.m. tip at the Dome against Georgia Tech. So right after that game, we'll be right here on Facebook Live. We do put this up on YouTube as well if you want to watch it on demand. Thanks to our friends at Krause Health for sponsoring this. Thanks to you guys, as always, for hanging out, coming in, doing the comments thing. We'll be here throughout the ACC basketball season for the Orange. Next one coming up Saturday against Georgia Tech. Please read my recap on Thursday morning if you're watching this live. If you're watching later on YouTube, perhaps on Thursday, it's up and running on syracuse.com. Either way, the recap always goes up the next morning after the game. All the great coverage from Donna DeToda, Mike Waters, and the whole crew, the great photos from Dennis Nett, and all of our coverage coming your way tonight and tomorrow off of this game. Syracuse beating Clemson 61-53. Terrific defensive effort from the Orange. Ugly game at the Dome, but a win is a win, the fourth in a row for Syracuse. Thanks for hanging with us tonight. We'll come back at you Saturday after the Orange take on Georgia Tech here on Facebook Live.